Greetings, students, and welcome to Chapter 2, Keywords and Concepts. It's your first video on this one for the week. So we're opening section 2.1 with the scientific method. So continuing from last week where we were talking about theories and empirical observation, we're talking specifically about the scientific method. So let's read what this has to say and talk about it a little bit. So this is the process through which scientific knowledge is advanced. Basically, ideas in the forms of theories and hypotheses, which you should be thinking about because you have to pick one this week, are tested against the real world, right? They're tested out in the world, in the form of empirical observations or experiments or whatever. And then those empirical observations lead to more ideas that are tested against the real world and so on. So it's this nice kind of circular thing where we kind of confirm that this is real. Okay, we know that this is a thing. Now we can work on this extra piece of it, right? And that's slowly how we expand scientific knowledge. And we get again into kind of some of these definitions within science world that are kind of important, particularly when we're talking about psychology. So we discussed this a little bit last week, but a theory is a well-developed set of ideas that propose an explanation for observed phenomenon. And the example that we're using for this class is gravity, because it's the best one. The theory of gravity, you've heard it said like that, that's why. Because it is the best exclamation we have for why if you drop things, they fall, right? So we use that as a theory. That is different than a fact. A fact is an observable reality. You can't observe actual gravity. You can observe the effects of gravity, but you can't actually see real life gravity, right? Right. So gravity can't be a fact because we can't really observe it, but we can observe, say, how fast things fall. So we can have speeds and things like that, right? And then on the completely opposite end of that are opinions. And those are personal judgments, conclusions, or attitudes that may or may not be accurate, right? That's your notion, your take on something. It's not necessarily a fact. It's not necessarily scientific. It's just an opinion. So we're going to move on to the next section, which normally I wouldn't do, but I'm trying to keep these videos the same length. So moving on to the next section here, we have a bunch of different types of ways that we do this, right? So we're talking about the scientific method. We're talking about experimentation. Cool. How do we do that? Many ways. One of the ways we do that is with surveys. These are lists of questions that can be answered by people, right? We can get lots and lots and lots of data from lots of different people by having them fill out surveys about themselves. Obviously, pluses and minuses, people aren't always accurate, that kind of thing, but that's definitely an option. We also have archival research, which is kind of fascinating, particularly when they do it with sciencey stuff. This relies on looking on past records for data sets for interesting patterns or relationships. So this may be something like somebody looking through medical records or hospital admissions from 100 years ago to see the prevalence of a certain disease or something like that, right? So lots of different ways that can be done. We also have longitudinal research. This is research that's done over a really long period of time. So these are usually done over like decades. And these are really valuable because we can get a lot of information about a lot of people over a long period of time. You see lots of long-term studies like this regarding nutrition or exercise, that kind of thing. Really interesting stuff. But one of the problems with longitudinal research is attrition, right? Because you're having these large number of people over a large period of time, lots of people drop out, right? And that's what attrition is. So that's an expected number is going to reduce. You're going to start out your longitudinal research with maybe 10,000 subjects, and then by the time you're done, it's probably only going to be about 4,000. You're going to lose a lot of people over those decades, right? So those are some of the beginning concepts as we're moving into our research and ethics chapters, and I will see you in the next video.